It's fall, y'all.
There you go.
Welcome to this episode of The Marriage Creative. We are a happy family with one really big story, and we want to help you grow, strengthen, and rekindle your marriage.
Welcome in to the Marriage Creative Show. I'm Caleb Nelson, and that's my wife,
Carla.
Nice to be back with you guys. Hope you're doing well. And if you're listening right now, happy fall.
Oh, yeah. Today's day,
It's close
first
enough.
day of fall.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like it until now.
Yeah.
Had a cold front come through. So,
Well, for us anyway.
yeah, feels better than it did yesterday. So, welcome back in. Happy to be here. Hope you guys have been doing well. Thanks for the notes. What's going on, Carla? What you got on your mind? She told me just a few minutes ago we need to go record a podcast. And then Andy Tainer texted me literally like 5 minutes later and said, when's the next episode coming out? So here you go, Andy.
Well, you know, my mom is always like, now when are y'all coming to record?
Yeah,
So I figure we were due to come and record. It's
I
been
got you. We
a
don't want to
little
lose
bit.
our recording space here.
That's right.
Yeah.
She might repurpose this room if we don't record
Something
in
else.
it.
Yeah, they don't need it. I'm going to use those microphones for my Bible study or something.
You never know.
Yeah.
She might start her own podcast.
Yeah. Come back here and press play. All right. So what are we here for? What are we going to talk about tonight? Today?
Well, you tell me. You got any topics?
Started a men's Bible study breakfast group.
All right. Tell us about it.
So if you're in and around the upstate of South Carolina, just let me know. We'll get you invited. Tuesday morning, 6:30 a.m.
If you're a man.
Yeah.
And as Jesse Duplantis says, all you have to do is look
down. Yeah.
to know.
Yeah. So
So if anybody's confused, they
yeah.
can look down.
So we've just kicked this Bible study off for men. I think we've met 3 or 4 times now, and working towards. They don't realize it maybe yet. Adam may hear this and know then, but we're working towards identity. That's kind of where we're headed, is identity. But I'm not starting there, because you have to build a case for identity. You have to build a case for your place at the table, your inheritance. Let's see, your legacy, your reverse legacy, you know, however you want to say it. But so yeah, you have to build a case for that. So I've been building a case for that during that group. So that's what I'm doing.
And everything hinges on it. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
definitely-
you can't do anything going forward without having that squared.
Right.
So, you know, why don't I want to come in and have a men's conference or a men's breakfast? You know, we're going to talk about how bad porn is, or, you know, how our buddies get drunk every weekend and beat up their wives. Well, both of those things go all the way back to inheritance, and they go back to identity. And so if we don't know that, we can't fix our own houses, our own minds.
Right.
It's been a really good study for me personally. And it's not anything that's written. I mean, I'm writing it as I go.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm whatever, but I mean, it's actually been some pretty good stuff, some pretty good revelatory stuff.
Yeah. And it's causing you to dig into identity, you know,
Yeah.
as your...
One of my favorite topics, and I'm studying it pretty heavily. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm doing.
I had a conversation with a lady yesterday who is standing on the word for her healing, and I noticed how many times I looped back around to identity, same thing, and not that I intended to, but it just everything hinges on it. You know, it's like.
Well, it's because it's opposite of what we've really been taught all these
But
years.
if you think about it too, in our culture now, how much identity is questioned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like.
Well, that's why they wanted the fluidity, is so they can make you question your own identity from the Creator.
I heard, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'm just saying I heard someone saying that now, like, parents can help their child transition into a different identity, like beginning at age 4. And just thinking, what 4-year-old, like I think about my 4-year-old little boy, for instance. Not that I have a 4-year-old now, but thinking about my boys at 4. And one minute they wanted to, run around and be Superman, and then they wanted to be a cowboy, and then an Indian, and then
Stormtrooper,
dig in the dirt, and then the next thing you know, it was, play trains, and then they had a little toy kitchen. They wanted to pretend cook because that's what they saw one of us doing, and just thinking about how transient their identity is at that age. Of thinking, everything's pretend like you're something other than what you are.
Look, if our parents in the 1980s would do what some parents are doing to their children today.
We were in the 70s.
No, we were children in the 80s. We were born in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
But if parents back then would be doing what some parents are doing today, they would have taken us out of the house and called it child abuse.
Yeah.
And now when you're trying to just raise like heterosexual children, you're the weirdo. Not going there. Beep. I don't have a button, but we're just not going down that road. We got to be positive. So find a different topic.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, identity is so critical, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
When, I think as we were growing up, identity was more of a sure. We didn't know our identity necessarily.
No, but we had
in Christ, but things were not so transient, is what I'm saying.
Well, even the bad influences of our day coming up were still very masculine men and very feminine women. Like you had Cindy Crawford and Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I mean, we didn't, like Jesse said, we could look down. We just forgot how to look down.
Yeah.
Fix it all by looking up to Jesus, but maybe we need to go there. I don't know.
Well, definitely, because that is where identity is found.
Yeah.
It is in Him, that our real identity,
Right.
no matter who you are, is, found in Him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the only one that's going to fix us or help us or get us where we're trying to go.
Well, He's your Father, so He knows what you are, what He made you for.
Well, there is the Father, but Jesus is the head. Yeah.
They're triune God.
Well, I know, but I'm saying I always differentiate the two because I think of Jesus
Well,
as
go to the Father through the Son. How's that?
my brother,
Well, Jesus is your brother.
but also as my groom, but also as
It's really weird talking about identity. It's really weird talking about Jesus being your groom when you're a dude. That's weird. That's a whole other topic for a different
as
show.
being the bride of Christ.
Man, we're not. It's like, come on, change gears on this thing or something.
Well, I mean, it is.
No, it's weird, man.
To wrap
I'm
your
telling
mind
you.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, we need to see Him in all those places, but we have to see Him in us too.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of the times people spend their time looking at God as the Father and Jesus as the Son, the Holy Spirit as this weird thing most people are afraid of. And I'm not disrespecting Him when I say that. And they lose sight of the fact of who they are in all of that themselves, because they're trying to quantify who is God. Is he like this old dude that's mad? Or, Jesus, man, he was kind of a hippie with flip-flops and, what I mean, long hair. And they're trying to make everything, they're trying to work that into the deal out. And they've really, really, man, they've really forgotten to look at who they are in Him. I mean, the Bible literally says that in Christ, we are the righteousness of God.
And it says, as He is,
So are we. And those are things that I never, ever heard taught coming up. I'm talking about into adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking like 10 years ago was the first time I've ever heard that in my life.
Well, and the one that I keep kind of going back around to is, as a man thinketh, so is he. You literally have to be so consumed with the thought of who Jesus is to know who you are.
Yeah.
Because as you think of yourself, like as a man thinketh, so is
So
he.
he is. So, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the triune God, the Trinity, not realizing, I'm not saying that we're God. I'm not trying to replace that desire to yearn and go after him, but I'm saying it seems a lot of people forget or maybe they don't even know what God said about them. And that's where identity comes in. They don't realize that they are not only a citizen of his kingdom, but they're also a child of his, which makes them an heir and a joint heir with Christ.
Right.
Puts them basically in Jesus's lap, sitting in the throne on the right hand of the Father.
And
That messes with people really big.
Well, and then to take that to another level is to think about yourself as a child. That's a big part of our identity.
Mm-hmm. Kenneth said it well the other day. Kenneth's story when we were chatting with him, talking about seeing everything as a child,
Yeah.
taking faith as a child.
I mean, because truly, we do have to receive everything like a little child.
Right.
Otherwise, our grown up, supposed adulting,
Yeah. I call it jaded.
view distorts our identity.
Well, it's because we've been rode hard and put up wet.
I mean,
Take it for what it's worth. I mean, we've done it to ourselves. I'm not saying that, but as society just wears us down like we're stuck in the pencil sharpener, and people working to pay bills and they can't see the light of day because of that, and their kids are in schools they don't really want them to be in, but they can't afford to take them out, and men are working trying to buy groceries, and the wife just wants them at home to love her and to lead the family, and she thinks she's the spiritual leader because she's the only one that reads devotions in the evening, and he don't know what to do because he's just trying to keep the groceries paid, and the kids are lost because the phones are. We're getting negative again, but the fact of the matter is, it has to come back to Jesus. It has to come back to our identity in who we are in him, who he is, and he's literally in us, and we are literally in him.
right. It's that abiding.
Yeah, he is literally in my flesh through his spirit right now, and I am literally in heaven
With him.
in my spirit with him.
Right.
That's when you need a button right there for like an explosion, like one of those mind-blown things. I'm telling you, I mean, to know that you exist in two planes is absolutely crazy.
Well,
Because it goes against everything that we feel, know, believe, and have for so long.
and to think that everything is spiritual is when we live in a flesh that dictates so much. It is hard sometimes to really wrap your mind around the fact that we're more spirit than we are flesh.
Yeah, but see, we feel pain, we feel anxiety, we feel, and like we go to church and we might get a little quickening in our spirit, or a little shout in our worship, or you might want to raise your hands. And
Don't go there.
I had to say it. I just had to say it for the audience's sake. What I'm saying is, we feel a lot less of that than we do the physical gut punches we deal with every day. Not that we have to.
Right. I
But
was
we
going to
do.
say, but the more we renew our mind in the spirit, and the more we, I think about, and I can't remember what verse it is. It talks about, walk in the spirit, not in the flesh.
Right.
And
that's not a euphemism, and that's not like a suggestion or even like a word picture. It's literally saying
literally means
walk in the spirit,
Yeah.
which means your flesh has to be subjected to the spirit, not the spirit
Right.
being subjected to the flesh.
Which goes back to what Paul said. You crucify your flesh daily. Every day you make a choice to ignore the flesh and walk in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong discipline.
That's probably more discipline than I've ever had in my whole life.
And thinking about that yet it's such a different, like, it's like both ends of the spectrum at once to think about walking in the spirit and laying down the flesh seems like such an adult idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then to think about being childlike. But if you really boil it down, it's one and the same. To walk in the spirit is literally to walk like a little child. Because a child is not aware of all of the do's and don'ts and the rights and wrongs of our culture. And I think about, and I use this idea often when I think about a child, you know, when they get a coloring book and crayons, there's not a right color for the flowers to be or not be.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a right color for trees. You know, they just pick up what looks right to them, like what they want it.
Or if you're at a restaurant, you only get the primaries and you just make it work.
You know, or they don't color inside the lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are all things that we get taught over time as we're
Growing up, losing
up.
our imagination.
And I think about how literally, I mean, we kind of warp our own selves, you know,
Mm-hmm.
as we're being trained to think it should only look like this.
Right.
A tree can only look like this. A flower can only be like this. You have to stay in the lines, and that's the only right way to do it. And, you know, you just think about how unfortunate that is that we take all of that creativity and then mold it and shape it in our culture does to say what is appropriate, what is right. And I'm not saying there's not right and wrongs that are definitive.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there is so much that we take from children that truly they get an understanding of spiritual truths that even brushing off children, like sometimes kids will say things like they saw something or they felt something, and you know, adults will be like, no.
Right.
But how much more in tune are they than we realize?
Well, I would say that just having witnessed in my house that, you know, my three younger kids are still very sensitive to things spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when Luke was a lot younger and he would see and different things, and you know, I took it as real. I mean, Luke was kind of a joker, but at the same time, I'm like, I think he's really seeing stuff. You know what I mean? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It would kind of freak me out a little bit, but I didn't want to know it freaked me out. I was just like, oh, really? Tell me more.
I don't really want to know, but
I don't really want to know, but I'm going to be curious here because I really want to know what you're seeing so I can prepare myself for. But, you know, it just really goes back to that childlike faith. And I could see it, especially with Milam and Zoe just in our house now.
Mm-hmm.
And recently where they sowed some seeds, some financial seeds, man, and they were serious.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just beautiful. I mean, it was one of those things that you probably don't forget as a dad going forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you just really, it almost breaks your heart to know that more than likely that is not going to stay the same because the world is going to knock it out of them.
Well, I don't know. They've been trained differently than we were.
I guess so.
You know, they've come up seeing the importance of sowing and reaping and knowing the difference between a time to sow and a time to harvest,
Yeah.
and to learn about first fruits and tithing. And not that we didn't know about tithing, but there's a lot about sowing I didn't learn growing up
Yeah. And reaping.
that I didn't understand.
I'm still learning the reap part.
And so I think, you know, they will hold on to a lot more of that than we did because we didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't.
No, I mean, it was just what you did.
I don't know. We skimmed over that part of the Bible. What I do know about sowing and reaping was it was like a negative. You're going to reap what you sow always was a negative connotation.
Yeah.
That I heard growing up.
But because it was used in a religious sense where they were trying to control you. control your actions, control your response to the.
And not that there's not truth in
No,
that.
I mean it goes both ways.
Right. I just never saw the flip side of the
We
coin.
weren't taught that your good actions could return good harvest. Your good seed could return a good harvest. We were just not taught that.
I
at all.
was only taught that it was like a negative thing.
Oh yeah, you talk about your mama, your teeth gonna rot out or something.
I don't know about that, but I just, and so for me, learning about sowing and reaping was a much different idea than our children think of it as.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And so I think that's, only going to benefit them in life. But
Yeah.
I know now I think about it so differently, than I used to.
I feel like sometimes I'm that guy with the grass seeder, pushing it around just to sow, to see that harvest, see the grass come up green in the springtime. Although I'm really excited about fall. I like the idea of seeing the seed come up. That's what I'm saying. We've learned to sow.
Well, you think about fall as harvest.
Yeah, fall is harvest. Bring it on.
Yeah,
Get the sickle out.
It is the time for harvest.
Yeah, I'm not talking about pumpkins.
No, but I'm saying it's harvest season.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that idea that harvest season, we didn't even grow up knowing what that meant. I mean,
We knew it was Halloween, Thanksgiving.
yeah.
I mean,
it
when
was
you
like-
said it was like harvest party at the church or
harvest to me was like dried up corn and
something. Hay bales,
pumpkins,
gourds.
Yeah, gourds.
It's ugly gourds.
I had no idea that it meant literally like this is the time that you get to benefit from
Right.
what has been sown.
Right.
And even as we talk about that, I think it's important to even just touch on the fact that a harvest is a season, and then there's a winter time.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you've got a respite, and then you've got sowing again, and then
Tending the crop as
yeah,
it comes up.
yeah. So, I know in our case, I feel like we've left a lot of things on the vine, not understanding harvest.
Yeah. I
And
agree
then,
wholeheartedly.
like literally sometimes our harvest has looked like the dried up corn because we didn't know.
We didn't take it when it was supposed to come off.
Right. We didn't understand what harvest looked like.
Yeah.
But we didn't grow up learning that.
So we're still in that process.
We're still learning that.
Yeah. And we got people listening are like, what are they talking about? It's okay. Stick around.
Well, and people know about gardening.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a seed harvest, sowing and harvesting.
But it is the same.
Biblically,
It is
spiritually.
the same
Yeah,
context.
It is, but we didn't learn it that way
No.
at all. At all.
No.
So we're speaking of sowing. We're still kind of in the move process. Don't really have a whole lot to say about that, but it's kind of still swirling.
Well, it is harvest season. So we sown. It's time to harvest.
Okay.
Time to put the sickle in.
Our kids are all back, but their conversations are just about camp all the time, which is okay. I mean,
They loved summer camp,
yeah.
which is good. We wanted them to do that, but yeah, I think we also would like for them to
Pick a new topic.
move on at some point before it's.
We need another season of The Chosen or something we can talk about. So
Yeah, I hope that's coming out soon.
it's going to be Christmas time, I think.
Oh, okay. Speaking of The Chosen, I think that's just another reminder too that, one, to pray for them because I'm sure they are under severe
Mm-hmm.
attack as they're trying to. I mean, it's such a great.
It's one of the most powerful things I've ever seen.
Yes, if y'all haven't seen The Chosen, go back and watch it. And if you have seen it, go back and watch it.
Binge Jesus.
I think we need to watch it again.
We probably do.
I mean, it was just so powerful.
Yeah.
And thinking about, as we were talking about identity, man, talk about learning the power of identity. You read about all of those people in the Bible, but then watching The Chosen, it's like it has put new life and new
Brought humanity to them.
identity to those people. So now when I read, it's almost like, and I know it's artistic license, but it's almost like I see those people.
Well, I still see Jesus as Bruce Marciano, so I get you what you're saying.
But it's funny how now I read my Bible and I kind of see those images.
Yeah.
Whereas before you saw Jonah was the little kid in your Bible story.
Right.
That,
The flannel board Jonah.
yeah. Not that they've done Jonah, but I'm just saying now I see people differently when I watch.
Yeah. Well, it brings humanity to Jesus.
Yeah.
It really does.
does.
He laughed.
And cried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
So-
even farted a couple of times. Look, I'm just going to say it, man, because, I mean, we spend so much time forgetting he was a man.
Yeah.
So, I know women do it too. I'm just saying, I'm talking about Jesus, y'all.
And he was a fisherman.
He was a carpenter. And he went fishing with his buddies.
Yeah.
Not like Keith and held his head over the side of the boat for the whole time.
He probably
Love
could
your
handle the
brother.
waves a little better.
Yeah. He could calm them.
He spoke peace to the waves.
I was out there on the waves, and I'm thinking, man, I sure would like some Jesus out here to speak some peace to this thing to calm it down a
Hey,
little
he's
bit.
giving us authority.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's 2 words, just keeping my biscuits down.
You should have used your authority.
I know April was using her authority. She was on the boat, and she's calling out dolphins, and dolphins, every time she would say it, she'd say, Jesus, I want to see some dolphins. And man, every time she would say it, dolphins would come up. And I'm like, my gosh. It was crazy.
Well,
Should have thought about that. I was just holding on. It was okay. I mean, it was fun. I had a good time. Did some deep sea. Well, it wasn't even deep sea fishing. It was offshore fishing, sport fishing.
and the scary part is they were catching all shark.
Yeah, that was the most fun part of it.
But I mean, how scary is that to think that right there,
Oh, just off the coast. Yeah.
just the beach that I'm sitting on, you're out there fishing in,
Yeah, half a mile off.
and it's all sharks.
That's all we caught the whole time.
That's a little scary.
That's why Kel don't get in the ocean unless he's in a boat.
Yeah.
I don't like the ocean. I don't like the beach. So we'll just go on to our next topic.
Yeah. Before we argue.
Anyway, we could probably even stop right there. Might not be a bad idea.
Just stop on harvest and identity and fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not harvest any more sharks. We want a new harvest.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
more sharks.
No more sharks. Drinda wrote a book about that. Okay. Well,
And no more goldfish.
yeah, no more goldfish.
We got to find a new harvest. No goldfish and no sharks.
No sharks.
So it's got to be somewhere in between there. That's a wide range there.
Like Lucy, who was it? What was Charlie Brown's sister's name?
Lucy?
No, that was the black-headed girl.
Oh, was it Sally?
Sally. Yeah. She said she'd take 10s and 20s. That's always struck with me from the Christmas special.
Oh, yeah.
She was writing her letter. Just 10s and 20s. Back then, that'd been a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
10s and, of course, I'd take 10s and 20s. Y'all send them on now.
Well, what was it that she would always... Which one was it that would sit out? Was it Lucy that would sit out and sell lemonade? Like for a
Yes.
quarter?
She had a... It looked like a lemonade stand, but she was more like a psychiatrist.
And that's what it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to set up me a booth like that at the salon.
You got a chair already.
I know, but I'm going to set my jar out there like Lucy and be like, okay, if you're here for your hair, you can pay up at the desk. If you're here for counseling, here's the jar. And if you're here for both, you're going to have to stop at the jar and
Yeah.
at the front desk.
Cash App and Venmo, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm going to put 10s and 20s
10s and
only on
20s.
it. No,
coins.
no, well, I don't know if it's a gold coin
Well, yeah, take gold coins, not gold dollars.
or silver.
Yeah.
but not 25-cent pieces.
Talk about harvest, talk about gold coins. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. We appreciate you listening here, sharing this with your friends. Hope you've enjoyed it, and thanks again for coming back, spending some time with us, and we'll return
Next week.
sooner than later.
Today's episode is brought to you by Post and Gate. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Marriage Creative. Subscribe and click the notification icon so you can stay up to date with all things The Marriage Creative. To learn more about who we are and what we do, check us out on social media or go to themarriagecreative.com today.